Have you ever paused to wonder what could drive a Hollywood starlet to make a promise so unexpected that it left people stunned? A decision that didn't just spark curiosity, but quietly shook the image the world had built around her. But that moment, as surprising as it seemed, was only the beginning. Beneath it lay a deeper story, one shaped by family values and a path few could have predicted. From a life filled with independence and personal freedom to one intertwined with responsibility and love, Marlo Thomas's journey feels less like a celebrity tale and more like a compelling human story. At one point, her world was simple, caring for her beloved dogs, living life on her own terms. Yet destiny had other plans, guiding her into a life connected with not just one partner, but a ready-made family that would redefine everything she knew. In the world of fame, the label role model is often handed out too easily. But true icons, those who inspire both on screen and in real life, are rare. Marlo Thomas stands firmly in that category. For many television lovers, she will forever be remembered as the charming and relatable Anne-Marie from the beloved series That Girl. Airing from 1966 to 1971, the show turned her into a household name, capturing hearts across America with her warmth, wit, and natural grace. Audiences were drawn not just to her beauty, but to the sincerity she brought to her role. Week after week, families gathered around their televisions, eager to watch her light up the screen. Her presence became a comforting constant, especially for those who grew up during that era. Even decades later, her impact continues to echo across generations. But Marlo's story didn't end with sitcom success. In the 1980s, she re-emerged with renewed strength, earning critical acclaim and winning an Emmy Award for her powerful performance in Nobody's Child. This marked a new chapter, introducing her to a fresh audience who admired her depth and versatility. Then, in the 1990s, she once again stepped into the spotlight, winning over younger viewers with her role as Rachel's mother on the iconic series Friends. Yet beyond the cameras and applause, Marlo carefully built a life rooted in balance. She managed to juggle a demanding acting career while nurturing a meaningful personal life. Her dedication extended far beyond entertainment, especially through her work with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, an institution founded by her father, Danny Thomas. Through advocacy and public appearances, she used her voice to champion causes that truly mattered. Even today, Marlo Thomas shows no signs of slowing down. Her energy remains unmatched, her commitment unwavering. She continues to write books, share wisdom, and inspire younger generations with messages that go beyond fame and success. Her life is a testament to purpose, resilience, and compassion. Perhaps the most remarkable part of her journey is her marriage, a partnership that has stood the test of time and become a source of inspiration for many. Together, she and her husband have created a bond built on respect, understanding, and shared values. It's a reminder that behind every strong individual, there can be a story of love and support that fuels their strength. Following in the footsteps of her legendary father, Marlo Thomas carved her own unique path, one that redefined what it means to live a life in the spotlight. Her story challenges the idea that fame must come with excess. Instead, she proves that it can be paired with purpose, grace, and genuine impact. And maybe that's the real surprise, not the promise that once raised eyebrows, but the life she built afterward. A life that continues to inspire, long after the cameras stop rolling. Marlo Thomas didn't just stumble into love, she found it in a place no one expected. Her story takes a fascinating turn when she crosses paths with a man who had already reshaped television history, Phil Donahue. Known for creating and hosting the groundbreaking Donahue Show, he introduced something revolutionary for its time: real audience participation. For nearly 3 decades, his voice echoed across American homes, making him one of the most influential media personalities of his era. Their meeting wasn't scripted, nor was it planned. It happened organically right there on his talk show. And from that moment, something shifted. What began as a simple appearance slowly evolved into a deep connection, one that would go on to define both of their lives. Years later, their marriage would be celebrated as one of Hollywood's most enduring love stories, crossing the milestone of 4 decades together, with their bond still growing stronger. But before Marlo entered his life, Phil had already lived a full chapter. He was previously married to Margaret Cooney, and together they had 5 children. After their separation, Phil found himself navigating life as a single father, raising his kids while continuing his demanding career. Marriage at that point wasn't something he was eager to revisit. And yet, fate had other plans waiting quietly in the wings. When Marlo and Phil met, both were already successful, admired, and deeply rooted in their careers. What makes their story remarkable is not just how it began, but how it endured. Nearly half a century later, they still carry the same warmth, positivity, and respect for one another. Their relationship feels less like a Hollywood romance and more like a partnership built on understanding and timing. Long before this chapter, Marlo had already carved her name into television history. Her role in That Girl introduced audiences to something entirely new, a woman who was independent, ambitious, and unapologetically focused on her dreams. Playing Anne-Marie, she portrayed a young woman who left home to pursue acting, taking on odd jobs to support herself, all while refusing to let marriage define her future. It was a bold narrative for its time, and Marlo embraced it fully. She later reflected on that experience with pride, often saying there's something truly special about being the first to do something original. Behind the scenes, she wasn't just acting, she was actively involved in shaping the show through her production company. That creative control made the project even more meaningful, turning it into a symbol of originality and vision. Born as Margaret Julia Thomas in Detroit, Marlo grew up in Beverly Hills, surrounded by the world of entertainment. She was the eldest daughter of Danny Thomas and Rose Marie Casanidi. With roots tracing back to Lebanese and Sicilian heritage, her upbringing was rich in culture and tradition. Interestingly, she also had a connection to Hollywood royalty through her godmother, Loretta Young, whose influence may have quietly inspired her early ambitions. As a child, her family affectionately called her Marlo, a nickname born from a simple mispronunciation of Margot. What started as a playful mistake would later become a name recognized across generations. During her time at Marymount High School, she began shaping the personality that would one day make her America's sweetheart. Initially, Marlo pursued education at the University of Southern California, aiming to become a teacher. But something inside her pulled her toward a different path. With guidance from her father, she understood the importance of education, but her heart was clearly set on performing. As she once explained, she wanted a degree, a piece of paper, to prove she was capable of something meaningful in the world. Yet, her destiny was already unfolding elsewhere. After the success of That Girl, that role became closely tied to her identity. But Marlo didn't allow herself to be confined by it. Years later, she embraced a new phase of her career, stepping into the role of Rachel Green's mother on Friends. It was a symbolic transition, from playing the girl to portraying the mother of that same spirit. As she once humorously put it, "I was playing that girl, now I'm playing the mother of that girl." Her career wasn't just about entertainment, it carried a message. Through her roles, Marlo encouraged women to prioritize their independence and build their own identities before stepping into marriage. It was a perspective that resonated deeply with audiences, especially during times when societal expectations were far more rigid. Ironically, Marlo herself once viewed marriage with skepticism. In the 1970s, she openly admitted that she didn't find it appealing, even comparing it to something that drained energy and personal freedom. But everything changed the moment she met Phil. What she once questioned suddenly began to make sense. Their first meeting led to a quiet dinner, where Phil shared details of his recent divorce and his hesitation to marry again. Yet, something about their connection felt effortless. Marlo later described it as perfect timing, two individuals who had lived full lives, now meeting at exactly the right moment. One of the reasons their relationship flourished, she explained, was the absence of pressure. Unlike younger couples rushing into decisions, they approached love with clarity and patience. However, their journey wasn't without challenges. Blending past lives, especially with Phil raising his sons in Chicago, required understanding, compromise, and emotional maturity. And perhaps that's where the real strength of their story lies, not just in love, but in the ability to grow together despite everything that came before. Marlo Thomas grew up surrounded by the warmth of her Los Angeles roots, a world shaped by strong family values, deep traditions, and a father whose influence would quietly guide her choices for years to come. So when she and Phil Donahue decided to build a life together, it wasn't a decision taken lightly. Both had lived full lives before meeting each other. Both carried memories, responsibilities, and lessons from the past. And yet, together they made a bold choice, to let go of what had been and focus entirely on what could be. It wasn't about rewriting history. It was about creating something new. At a stage in life when many people feel set in their ways, Marlo in her late 30s and Phil in his early 40s discovered a rare kind of clarity. Their maturity became their strength. Where younger couples might rush, they paused. Where others might doubt, they trusted. And slowly that trust turned into something unshakable. Some say love feels sweeter the second time around, but Marlo would later smile at that idea and say for her, the first time had been just right. Still, the question lingers, what truly makes a marriage last? Is it passion, patience, or the quiet decision to stay even when things become difficult? For Marlo and Phil, it was a combination of all three. Their bond wasn't built overnight. It grew through shared moments, honest conversations, and the willingness to stand together through both joy and struggle. Was it love at first sight? Perhaps not in the traditional sense. But Marlo often described their first meeting as something almost chemical, an instant spark that drew her toward him. She was intrigued, even a little captivated. Phil, on the other hand, would later joke that his first impression of her was complicated. But time has a way of softening those early thoughts, and what remained was a connection that would eventually turn them into one of the most admired couples in public life. Once married, their lives blended in ways Marlo had never experienced before. She once described the transition with honesty and humor. "I went from having 2 dogs to having 4 boys and a husband. It was a dramatic shift, from independence to a full household, from quiet routines to the lively chaos of family life. And while it wasn't always easy, it was deeply meaningful." In those early days, challenges appeared quickly. Their romance, as she admitted, sometimes had to take a back seat while they focused on building a stable home. Adjusting to her role as a stepmother required patience, understanding, and a willingness to grow. There were moments of doubt, questions about whether the weight of these new responsibilities might affect their relationship. But instead of pulling them apart, those challenges brought them closer. Phil found that simple routines, like sitting down for meals with his sons, helped strengthen their bond as a family. And he often credited Marlo for bringing a sense of structure and harmony into their home. Her presence created balance. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed, especially by the children, who welcomed her into their lives with openness. Much of this strength came from Marlo's upbringing. As the daughter of Danny Thomas, she had grown up in an environment where discipline, faith, and family values were deeply respected. She often described herself as a daddy's girl, someone who cherished her father's guidance and carried his lessons into adulthood. He wasn't just a parent, he was a mentor who helped shape her character and her outlook on life. She once recalled how his beliefs influenced her personal choices, including his strong views on relationships and commitment. His words stayed with her, not as rules, but as reminders of the importance of respect and self-worth. Those early teachings became part of the foundation she would later bring into her own marriage. But even the strongest relationships are tested over time. A long-lasting marriage is never effortless. It requires intention, a shared desire to stay committed, even when circumstances become difficult. For Marlo and Phil, that meant allowing each other the freedom to grow as individuals while still nurturing their connection as a couple. One of their key principles was simple but powerful: don't try to change each other. Instead, accept, adapt, and support. And perhaps even more importantly, don't let both partners lose control at the same time. Because when emotions rise together, conflicts only grow stronger. Balance, they believed, was essential. Although Marlo and Phil didn't have children together, she fully embraced her role within the family. She offered unwavering support to Phil's children, becoming not just a stepmother, but a guiding presence in their lives. At the same time, she continued her lifelong commitment to humanitarian work, especially with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, an institution founded by her father in the 1960s. Her dedication to helping others never faded. In fact, it only grew stronger with time. From advocating for children's health to supporting women's rights, Marlo used her platform to create meaningful change. And in recognition of her impact, she was honored with one of the highest civilian awards, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It was a moment that reflected not just her career, but her compassion and purpose. In their later years, Marlo and Phil also chose to share their story with the world. Together, they wrote a widely celebrated book, exploring what truly makes a marriage last. It wasn't just about their journey, it was about lessons, insights, and the reality behind a relationship that had stood the test of time. Looking back, Marlo once described her younger self as someone who never imagined marriage could fit into her life. It felt too limiting, too small for her ambitions. But meeting Phil changed that perception entirely. For Phil, the moment he met her left a lasting impression, one he would later describe with both admiration and humor. Their story isn't perfect. It's real. And maybe that's what makes it so powerful. It's not just about love, it's about growth, patience, and the courage to begin again, even when life has already written its first chapters.